So I just finished adding section breaks between chapters, and this book is basically formatted. I'm going to cross this one out. But to get it ready for publishing or print, we actually need to add a little bit more information. We need a title page and a copyright page. So I'm going to do those in this video. While I was looking, because I was doing my section breaks and trying to figure out my headers and my footers, it was important to look at both pages so I could see how everything is going to look. But I'm going to go up now to view and go back to one page and 100%, so it's a little bit bigger and easier to see. One thing that's happening already up here is that this is my title page basically, and I shouldn't have a header on it, so I can go to different first page. This is my preface. I added section breaks between the chapters, but I didn't do any section breaks here. So I'm going to need to actually go to layout and add a section break here. And there's already one here. So that looks fine. This preface is way too long. I think I was playing around with it, or way too big. So I'm going to just make it small. I really could go back and play with all the styles and everything, but for now, I'll add some line space after that because I don't have a subtitle. You still want, even for a preface, you want the body text to be about halfway down the page. And I might save this as a new style. So I'll create a style and say preface. Anytime you make a change and you don't want it to be like this is, I'm using the heading 1 style, but I don't want all of my heading 1s to look like this. I'm just doing this because for the preface, it looks better to have it smaller like this. So I made this a new style. And right now, the page numbers in the preface are showing up at 1 and 2. They actually start even earlier. So I'm going to need to go through and change those page numbers to Roman numerals. I'll do that first. So chapter 1, this page numbering should actually start from 1 because page number 1 should start at chapter 1. So what I'll do is in here, I'll go up and uncheck link to previous. So right now, this is still showing 9, but it's not actually linked to anything before. So like if I delete this page number, that shouldn't affect what happens later. So these page numbers, whoops, and it did affect it, so it shouldn't have. Let me try that again. So this is always a little bit tricky, getting all the page numbers to work and to be linked or not linked. But I just added a new one, and I will justify it. I actually need to justify it to the other side. Actually, I don't really want it to show up at all here because this is a new page. It's a different first page. So I'm just going to delete it there. And I'm going to put it here. With page numbers, usually you can right-click, format page numbers. This is a little different than it was in previous versions of Word, but you can continue from previous section or you can start at number 1. So I'm just going to start at number 1. Actually, no, I don't want to do that because, oh, that worked. Anyway, so this is the first chapter, chapter 1, and there's no page number, but the next page is number 2. So that actually works fine. And then number 3 and on and on. So that part of the book, page numbering, is now working and looks fine. So what I would want to do now is just go back to the preface and go here to the second page. And then instead of this number 4, I would format the page numbers and I would start at, let's see, first I change it to Roman numerals, and then I'd start at 1 in this section. So it'll start from the beginning of the section. That's why this is the beginning of the section actually. So even though I don't show a page number, the next page is showing the page number at number 2. So that works pretty well. It's also looking a little bit weird because, let me show you with view, multiple pages. It looks like I changed the page numbers a bit, so I still have some page numbers up here, which I'm going to get rid of. But now it looks okay down there. So now basically I have page numbers number 1 starting from chapter 1, and I have Roman numerals starting from the preface. And number 1 starts here at the preface. This beginning stuff, the front matter, shouldn't have any page numbers. So I also want to go and make sure that this is not connected to the previous. And then I should be able to delete this. That really should work. It seems like it's not. Maybe it's because I didn't do this one. So I'll uncheck that and delete this. Okay, so if you uncheck link to previous, then I'm able to keep the page numbers I have here, but I can delete the ones that I have here. So that's kind of the process for getting rid of these page numbers in the first few pages. This is really nothing. This will be my title page. And now that this isn't linked to previous, I can also delete the header on this title page. The title page should look a lot like your book cover. So I would just use the same. What I sometimes do for book cover clients, if I'm doing their formatting, is I'll just use the book cover and I'll delete all of the images and I'll just keep the text exactly the same, but leave it as a normal black text on a white background and save that as a picture to put into the title page. But the other thing you can do is just change your title to match the font, whatever that font happens to be of your book cover. If you can't match it exactly, then I would just pick something really simple. But otherwise you want to try to match the layout and the font and everything so that it looks as close to your book cover as possible. So when they open it up, it really looks like it's just kind of the same thing. And same thing with the author name. Generally, your book cover is going to be fancy or decorative font that matches your genre, and your author name is going to be a simple serif or sans serif font, often that has a lot of spacing. So I'm going to go up here to paragraph spacing and expanded and make that a little bigger. Adding a lot of spacing just makes things look a lot cleaner, more professional. It kind of gives it a cinematographic feeling. And I might want to check if these have indents or not, which they might have. So I'll go to line spacing options and make sure there's no indent so that this is really centered on the page. Anyway, so that might be fine for my title page. Sometimes you'll have a little graphic down here for the publisher, if you have a publishing imprint or logo of your publisher. If not, that's fine. You might have a little tiny graphic somewhere that it has something to do with your book cover if you want to add something else, but keep it pretty simple. I've seen some really good, I keep mine pretty simple like this, but I've seen some really nice title pages that have a little more info about the author or the other books the author's published, or the publisher, other books they've published. This is also kind of your first impression. Like, this is the first thing they'll see when they open the book. If you have an ebook, sometimes the ebook will skip over the opening pages and go straight to the content of the first chapter. But this can be your first chance to communicate with the reader, basically. So you want to keep that in mind. The other thing I'm going to do is go to the end of the book. I had grabbed some copyright information, so I'm just going to grab this. And so now that I have my title page, I'm going to insert, well, I'll go to layout and breaks and go to next page, and I'll add my copyright information. It can be a little tricky in Microsoft Word because sometimes they'll add an invisible page, which is kind of crazy, but generally you could look at how things look. I might want to save this as a style. The copyright will just have your author name, all rights reserved. You could copy this or similar things online. My templates all have something like this already. You'd add your website, You don't really have to add your address. I probably wouldn't even recommend putting your address in your book. You'd add your ISBN. This will be different for your ebook or your Word document or your print book. So if you are making this Word document to convert to ebook, later I'll show you how to convert to ebook. And as long as you've set up your heading styles and your first paragraph styles and your basic paragraph styles, if you've set all this stuff up right and your navigation pane is showing up and showing you all the different chapters, then it should convert to ebook really well. But you will first need to change the ISBN or remove the ISBN. Some ebooks, like you can publish on Kindle and iBooks, I think, without even having an ISBN for your ebook now. But you want to check depending on where you're publishing. And if you were converting from your Word document to ebook format, you'd want to make sure you're not using the ISBN for your print book, because that's going to be a little bit different. But for right now, I've just added my copyright. It looks like that. And I kind of have to keep track of, this is where it seems like now that I've added a couple pages, now things are looking like they should. So the extra space of my gutter is on the inside, which is great. It makes it a lot easier to keep track of where things should go. And I can actually notice right away, somehow I deleted the header on this side. So even though the page numbers are still there, I need to go back and add this. And change this to author name. And the other thing that just happened is like up here, this was looking really good. This has my gutter on the inside and my headings are on the outside, mirror imaging of the book. I'll have to go through back again and also check. Now that I added that header back in, you can see it showed up here. So I have to make sure that this one is not linked to the previous. I'll do that over here too, just in case. And then I can go up here and delete this. That should let me delete it without deleting these. So it's kind of a step-by-step process where you have to check everything. But now things are looking pretty good again, except like I said about that gutter thing, here it's really easy to tell the gutter is on the inside and this is the outside. So this is just how it's going to look in print. But then it switches here, which means there's probably an invisible page between these two, which you're not going to see until you save as a PDF. Once you save this document as a PDF, you'll probably notice when I added the section break between these areas, there's probably a whole blank page, which is actually kind of fine because personally, like I like my chapters to start on the right-hand side. So this is actually right. This is the chapter 1 is starting, because it's a new section. This is starting on the right-hand side, and this will be the back of the page, which I would actually recommend doing, especially for the first chapter at the beginning of the book. For the rest of the book, you generally don't want to do that. So let me check chapter 2. So in this case, this is the outside of the book on the right-hand side, and this is the next page when you turn it over. And this is the inside over here. So in this case, there isn't an extra page that's been added. The way you can tell that is you can just tell that the margins, the gutter is on the outside here. There's no gutter here. So this is the outside of the book. Sorry, it's really confusing to talk about inside outside when Word is just showing you the exact opposite of what it's actually going to look like in print. But you do have to kind of be aware of what's going on. And then it just switched here and changed again, so that now this is the gutter. It's pretty weird in Microsoft Word. Some of those things you can't even really figure it out until you see it. If you save it as a PDF. Once you save it as a PDF, there's a way to go through and delete those extra pages if you don't want them. This is one of the things that people hate about Microsoft Word. And there are ways to fix them in Microsoft Word, but they're more advanced features, so I'm not going to go into all of them right now. One of the other things you can do, though, is view multiple pages. There's a way that you can show lots of pages. Whoops. Okay, so if I go and make everything really small, then I can really see how things are actually gonna look, which might make it a little bit easier, but I think there may still be some invisible pages which you'll need to strip out later, which can be a pain. So that's something just to keep in mind. If you notice you're having that issue, there are other resources to get rid of invisible pages in Microsoft Word. But for now, I've just added the title and the copyright page, so that's done. In the next video, I'm going to go through and talk a little bit about what you need to have in the back of your book. One more thing I might put in the front of my book. Let me just cross this one out. Like I said, a lot of readers, especially in the ebooks, they'll just skip over the front part of the book anyway. Something you could put in the front of the book is a very short introduction. I usually don't do this in my print books, but in my ebooks, I might say something like, if you like this book, please go review it. I might add a brief introduction to me, just because when people are viewing your ebook online or they're looking at the look inside feature, sometimes they haven't even started reading the book yet, but you could still get them to take action on something. So like for fiction, I wouldn't do it, but for a nonfiction book, for example, if I had an offer, and in my nonfiction book, I really wanted them to click to my website and get my free offer. If they don't buy the book, they won't actually see my offer because it's in the back of the book. But if I add a special offer in the front of my book and say, click here to get some free bonuses, people can see and click my offer at the beginning of the book in the look inside area, even if they don't actually buy the book or make it to the end of the book, which is important. So if you have like a call to action, you really want them to do something, you could put it in the front. And you might even do that in fiction, where you could say, for example, get 5 free books with my starter library, click here. That's pretty smart to do. I'll probably actually add that to all my fiction books, because you could have that in the beginning of your book, and people might check out your book and they decide not to buy it for $2.99, but they may click to your website and sign up on your email list to get some of your books for free, like if you have some books to get them started reading. So that might be something to do, and it's something to consider.